and economics. But if you have questions about applying to university in general or what Warwick is like, I can try to help with those. So in terms of format, I'm going to run through some important features of the PPE course. So the sort of things that people want to know about the PPE course. And then we'll stop the recording. And if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to go into that. And then we'll do a little bit of content as well. So I'll talk through, give you a little bit of a taster of the sorts of things that we discuss within PPE. And again, we'll have questions about that as well. So that's what we'll do. So these features of the PPE program I'm going to tell you about, they may not be of interest to you. You may be interested in other features, but these are the kinds of things that people tend to want to hear about. And along the way, I might give you some tips for how to think about combined programs, because I think combining subjects of study within a program is a very good idea for many people. Many people haven't really yet settled on the exact subject that they're interested in. And a combined program gives you that opportunity to keep your options open. But on PPE at Warwick specifically, what we're doing is we're drawing on the strengths of the three departments, the philosophy, the politics, and the economics department that support our program. So much of the teaching that you experience when you're here will be through the philosophy, politics, and economics department. And you'll also be going to their academic events, their social events, and that kind of thing as well. So those three departments that you'll be drawing from, they're all large, which is important for you because what that means is they have lots of choice of modules. So we work in a modular system where you pick different subjects of study that you want to study, especially in your second and third year. And sometimes students can be a bit disappointed when they get to the university they've selected and the kind of philosophy or the kind of economics they want to study isn't covered. Now, I can't guarantee that won't happen. If anybody said that their department covered every aspect of these subjects, they'd be lying. But in PPE at Warwick, we've got broad coverage because we have these large departments. And these departments are well reputed in surveys of all kinds, rankings and the like. Now, I think you should always take rankings with a pinch of salt. Sometimes the ranking doesn't necessarily tell you what you might be interested in as a potential undergraduate student. But I can say that because we do really well in every ranking, so it doesn't matter so much to us. So each department does really well. The university as a whole is also heavily targeted by graduate employers. I'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. And because our course is very flexible and gives you all these options across the three departments, the vast majority of our students find the course intellectually stimulating. You know, they've chosen the degree, and then within the degree, they're choosing different modules that they want to take and study. And so the vast majority of our students are satisfied or very satisfied with the course. In terms of what's distinctive about PPE at Warwick, well, there's a few factors. So one of the things that we like to do is we like to make sure that all of our students have clear guidance and advice. So part of my role, as well as teaching philosophy on the course, is I'm there to help students with study choices, with career pathways, with thinking about further study, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of support from academic and non-academic staff. So one of the things you want to look at when you're looking at combined programs is to see, do they have that form of support there? Or are you left to figure things out for yourself? That's something to consider. Another thing that we've got going for us is we've been doing this for a while. We've been doing this for 20 years now. We didn't just cash in when people started talking about PPE, protective equipment in the news. We already had the course up and running. And so that, again, means we've sort of thought about how these different components fit together and how to deliver them well. So we use what we call a bridge model. So some other PPE programs do things in this way. Some PPE programs do things in terms of a pillar model. Now, in a pillar model, you study subjects separately the whole way through university. But at Warwick, we have a bridge model, which means that we will ask you to study subjects separately, especially in the early days. But we also think there needs to be a space where we see how the disciplines come together. And the real reason why we're doing that is because we think there's a lot going on in the social world where you really need to think about these subjects together. And if you start to be interested in PPE, you will start to notice this yourself. You'll start to notice things that are happening in the world where you can see there are these 3 dimensions to what's going on in order to understand. I'll give you one example based on some material. I was working with PPE students a couple of years ago when we were looking at the future of work. So work in the future is going to be different. One of the things that will characterize your working life is you'll probably be doing lots of different things throughout it. It's highly unlikely you'll be doing the same thing for 40, 45 years. But one particular thing that's changing is that there's more and more labor, if you like, that can be done by machines, either through robots and the like, self-driving cars, or through pieces of software. So we're talking about, yes, using things like ChatGPT to write advertising copy, which people are doing. A lot of computer scientists use it to code material as well, to do programming. It's not just used for cheating on your homework. So there's more and more tasks that people will be able to use these sorts of tools for. So Osborne and Frey, for example, I have here, there's just one forecast, but they think that 47% of American jobs are going to be at risk of automation. So, we're thinking about the fact that there's almost 3 million people in the US employed in transportation, trucking things around. It's getting closer and closer to a stage where we won't need people to perform that work for us. What's going to happen? How are things going to change? So one of the things that we were thinking about was, well, suppose that this does happen. Suppose that we have increased automation, and the consequence of that is going to be there's just not enough work for everybody to do. Leisure time for everybody. It could be a glorious new future, but it's going to have problems. There's going to be things that we need to fix in a transition over to this utopian society. So one of the things we were thinking about in particular was mass unemployment. So if there's less work that needs to be done, and if any new work that's created can also be done by machines and software, what's going to be left for people to do? How are people going to earn to live their lives? So we were thinking about what could we do? What could we envision? So we were looking at one particular proposal that's been made, which is an idea called a universal basic income. This is a proposal that's been around a few years, but it's becoming sort of increasingly urgent the more people realize that work is going to be changing, how the workforce works, how the economy works is going to be changing. So the idea with the universal basic income is that everybody has the UBI. They have this benefit. It's given to everybody that lives in a particular area or is a citizen of a particular area with no conditions whatsoever. It's universal. Now, of course, then people can work on top of that. If they enjoy work, if there's work to do, if they want to earn more money than the universal basic income, work's still incentivized. But the universal basic income is supposed to provide a fallback position for everybody. And so basically what you're doing is you're severing the link between labor and compensation. If we're getting more and more of the labor done by machines and software, we still have to account for the fact that people are living, they need a way to support themselves. We also need those people to be able to have money to be able to buy things, right? Because if machines and software are producing for us, well, they're not going to consume that much. They don't have expensive taste like us. So actually you get a kind of crisis going if more and more production is being done, but there's nobody who can buy it because nobody's got a job. So we need to think seriously about this. So when we get to the discussion part, when we're talking a little bit more about the content in a moment, we'll dig into whether this is a sensible suggestion together. But when we were talking about this in class, we saw that straight away there's a philosophy angle, there's a politics angle, there's an economics angle. So on the philosophy side, we were thinking about fairness here. Is it fair for some people to make money without working? On the politics side, we're thinking about the political consequences of mass unemployment. What's it going to look like if all 2.8 million Americans who work as truck drivers, if they're thrown into unemployment, what's that going to change in terms of their political system? Probably nothing good. And then on the economic side, we're thinking about the cost of this. Is it sustainable? What would it take to pay for it, and so on? And for this illustration here, I've chosen this robot doctor. And that's just to make the point is we're not just talking about truck driving here. There's more and more use of automation in medicine, for example, where you can train software to be able to look at x-rays and the like, and it's getting better and better and better and better. Even things like surgery, machines are getting better and better. So it's not just manual blue-collar work that's under threat here, it's all kinds of work as well. I think philosophy, PPE is probably going to be the last thing that you can automate, but there's a lot of stuff that can be. And so we were also considering some other questions as well. You know, what does this mean for an education system as well? How should we have an education system for a world where there'll be less work that needs to be done? So that's just an example. That's an example of something where the world is changing and we need to think about the P, and the E to really get a good perspective on what's happening. And so the way that we implement this in the course is that in addition to having philosophy, politics, economics modules that you'll have to take, we also have modules which bridge the disciplines together. So we teach together, we get people from across different disciplines, we come together on modules which are just for PPE students. We don't let non-PPE students take these modules. Sometimes they try, but we kick them out, they're not allowed. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to integrate study of the three disciplines. So the topics, obviously, they change year to year because of the world changing, but in the past, we've looked at things like globalization, we've looked at climate change and migration and how those things are linked. One of the main reasons why people are moving around is because where they live, the climate's changing. So we're looking at all kinds of questions there. So the topics will change, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring together what we've learned in our other courses. Something that sometimes people look at when they're looking at programs is what happens afterwards, what the program might lead to. And whenever you're going to like an open day or something like that, you have to bear in mind that how students did on a program, you know, how did PPE graduates or from here, or philosophy graduates from there, or politics or history graduates from there. You have to remember that how they've done in the past, it's an indication of, yes, the skills that they've learned in the program, but it's also about what they've done as well. So you're not going to go to university and just like passively get the benefits from being at university. So one of the main reasons I think our students have done well in the past is because they put the work in. They put the work in terms of class time. They put the work in terms of outside of class academic work. They also get involved in campus life as well. They're involved in student societies. They're organizing things and so on. And that's the experience and the skills that they build on when it comes to opportunities in the marketplace. But I do think it's fair to say that Warwick as a university has an excellent reputation with employers and other universities. So it's usually heavily targeted. Graduate employers come to the campus, they want to talk with our students. Now thinking about PPE specific students specifically, 15 months after they graduate, for the last cohort we have figures for 97% in work or further study. And of that work, if you look at the diagram on the right, the chart on the right, most people are doing graduate work where it's considered that you need a degree to do that work. That's a really strong result. It's to do with the sorts of skills that you learn, I think. I think it's to do with the fact that you're able to read well, write well, that you can understand quantitative social science, that you can understand qualitative social science, that you can sit in a room with people and persuade them of your viewpoint. I think those are all extremely valuable skills that not everybody has, but our graduates tend to have. But it's also, again, the work that our students have put into it to make their program a success. In terms of the types of careers that our students do, it's very broad. So we have people who are working in finance, in banking, consultancy, and so on. That's quite a popular destination for obvious reasons. We like our students to make a lot of money. There's nothing wrong with that. But we also have students who are interested in other things as well. So we have people who are journalists, people who are working in civil service, people who are working in local government, people who are working in charities for international NGOs, OECD, people who go on to be lawyers and all kinds of things. So occupations where you need to be able to understand quantitative, qualitative material, work with that stuff, work with other people. There's a hell of a lot of them. Another thing that's quite common for our graduates is to go on to further study. So each year between 30 and 40% of our students go on to some kind of further study directly from their program, and in a very varied range of fields. So obviously in economics and in finance and in politics and in philosophy, that's quite common. But we have people who go on to study marketing or international security or international development, anthropology, public policy, all kinds of wide range of things. So then just to summarize what we've spoken through there then, we've got those three large departments that are strong in research and teaching, which means that we have experts in lots of different fields. We have that administrative support that you need. You're not going to be left to figure things out for yourself. There'll be people to help you. And we have a broad range of optional modules. Our programs are also very flexible. You can join our program and study it either as a BA or a BSc. We don't require A-level maths for our students. Many of our students do have A-level maths, but some do not. And we have different levels of quantitative training that mirrors that fact. And we don't ask that anybody study PPE or E before. A lot of schools don't necessarily offer these subjects. So we have that support. We have a common room. We have a director of student experience and progression, a director of studies, an office team. People are there to help you figure things out. And then finally, in terms of what we're looking for A-star AA if you're doing A-level at your school, or 38 points in the IB. And we do require a certain level of maths. That's our one subject requirement, which is level 7 in GCSE maths. Now, as I said, some students have done A-level maths, some haven't, and we can accommodate both of those. Beyond that, though, we're looking for academic potential. So then we're talking about traditional subjects, the kinds of subjects that your teachers have been telling you to select in your A-levels. And seeing a spread of subjects can be helpful. So something with a quantitative element and something with an essay-based element, that's usually quite helpful because you'll be doing both of those things at university. And then beyond that, we're also looking for evidence of interest in at least 2 of the 3 disciplines, but it's ideal if you mention all 3. We don't want people who are only interested in one or only interested in the other. Now, we are interested in people who haven't studied these subjects before. That's certainly true. So we won't expect you to have studied these subjects before. But once you decide to apply for PPE, there will be a reason. There'll be some explanation of why you want to do that. And that's what we want to see reflected, that explanation reflected in your application materials. So that's all I want to say about the course. So happy to stop the recording now